Last time on the Blueprint, we met the team at Moose's Enterprises and got hands-on with their heat press problems. First, we talked with Eric, the forward-thinking sales guy, about the team's desire to double the business. Then, we met Tace, the one who takes care of the finances and holds the office together. And Jared, part owner, part operator, and general voice of reason when it comes to expanding the business. And then there's Moose, the business's namesake and in-house screen print expert. They share a common goal, and they experience the same challenges that many other apparel decorating business owners face. But let's not forget the star of the last show, the Hotronix Fusion. This heat press was able to solve the issues that the team was having while printing performance wear, which opened the door to talk about a lot more than just heat printing. Welcome back to the Stahls TV Blue Print. This episode, we're going to pick up where we left off with Moose's Enterprises. We're camped out in north central Pennsylvania, and last time we talked a lot about process and operations, and we actually spent some time hands-on with the heat press. This time, we want to focus on some of the other things that we drew out of our visit, more business strategy and development of scaling their business.
Yeah, the real goal of these visits is to have the business that we visit walk away with a success plan or a blueprint to grow their business. And in order to do that, we really have to understand where they want to take their business, how they got to where they are now, and what challenges they see getting to the next level.
Okay, I find it best that we start back at the beginning, so let's jump in with Eric.
Started as safety supplies and we bought a printer cutter because we couldn't turn around our stickers fast enough, and now we've got 2 embroidery machines, our screen printer upstairs, a 60-inch Soljet Pro 4, and putting another edition on because it was narrow-minded. I mean, you're like a horse with blinders on saying, we got to make stickers, hopefully it works. We wanted to sell to the gas industry, and here we are, schools and general public, and wrapping vehicles and trailers and everything else. And our narrow-mindedness at that point was, I hope we can sell enough stickers to the gas industry to pay for the little printer, let alone be where we're at.
What Eric told us next is that they certainly sold enough stickers to the gas industry, so much so their focus actually opened up different opportunities to diversify the business.
Right.
We've got a SP300i. When we moved in here was March, April of 13. Would have been that next June we bought a Soljet Pro 4.
And that was based on customer demand, or just sort of what you were thinking?
A little bit of both, and we're like, wrapping vehicles will be neat. Little did you know, how intensive that is. I mean, it's not just putting a sticker on, which we've had to learn, whether it be vinyl or heat transfer, embroidery, inks for screening, what works well for us and what works well so we're not sending it back, or somebody's coming back and saying, hey, my shirt sucks. The material didn't perform well. We were starting to get larger format jobs. Somebody's saying, hey, I want a 4-foot sign, or a 5-foot sign. Well, now I got to cut it rather than print it, or a banner. A printed banner looks much nicer than a bunch of cut vinyl laid on a banner. Between that and knowing that we wanted to get into large format printing for partial wraps, full wrap, stuff like that, bit the bullet and bought a big printer.
And they weren't done there. Moose's Enterprises' growth into the decorated apparel market is just getting started.
A little over a year ago, we bought a screen print and embroidery shop. That's what got us. They had a little 6-head or a 6-needle single head. We bought one of our Bravos because we needed more production, and then just bought the second one here, July, I guess. So along with screen printing.
When you bought the screen print embroidery shop, did they come with a base of clients in the area?
Yeah, we got some of it. Everybody kind of still says, hey, I'm going to be here. But yeah, some of the customers came, some didn't. They're loyal to who they were, or who they were working with. So, or didn't want to drive. It would be my guess.
So a pretty interesting way to grow the business through acquisition, and there's some definite benefits to that in that you can acquire equipment typically at lower costs than you would pay for that equipment brand new, And then also, when you acquire a company, it can come with a built-in customer base.
Now, we don't hear a lot about people acquiring other companies in our industry because there's also a lot of risk involved in it. There's a certain level of service that customer base expects, and there's no guarantee that they are coming with the business, although you are buying the contact information.
Right.
So one of the other themes that seems to keep coming up in our conversation with Eric is walk-in traffic to the physical location at Moose's.
Yeah, and speaking of that walk-in traffic, we dive a little deeper with Moose's Enterprises customers, asking Eric the question, are the customers driving innovation, or is the Moose's team driving the product innovation?
I would say it's a pretty good mix, and we get a lot of people that will ask, "Hey, can you do this?" And we're horrible at saying no. I mean, we really are. Well, I don't know. Let's try it. You know, and that's where, hey, we got into this material, or we got into that material, or no, this doesn't work, or we can't use it with this application. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot that we want to try on our own, but at the same time, there's a lot of people saying, "Hey, can you do this?" I don't know. Let's try.
Trial and error is a really typical approach to product innovation, but it can be really fun or it can be really frustrating.
Yeah, and I think it's commendable that Moose's Enterprise is willing to take risks, perhaps waste product, waste time, in order to come up with something better for their customers.
Yeah, there is a key motivation behind this approach for Moose's, and Eric's going to explain it to us right now.
We all want to progress. We all want to do better than where we are right now. With product, with the consumer, with having more customers. I mean, I think that's everybody's goal, is you want to continue to grow. So having everybody like-minded and tastes, making sure all the incoming and outgoing invoices is taken care of, and everything's being right. Without her, it'd be a whole different ball game. We'd have a stack of mail this tall saying, "Look, well, we're out of money now. Go through this pile." But everybody's still like-minded. We all want to have neat stuff. We all want to show new stuff. What's, I guess, latest and greatest, not being, this is what's worked, so let's just run with it. It's been the same for 20 years. It's kind of, if it's not broke, don't fix it. It's a little the opposite. I guess for us, yes, we're going to use that stuff, but at the same time, you want to try to show a new product, and we're not innovating, we're replicating what's already out there. But in our area, say, look, hey, here's some new options, here's some different stuff.
So the conversation with Eric overall was enlightening. He's a sales mind, and so he likes to push the envelope, progress, in order to come up with new products. It seems like that's a way that he defines success for the business.
It definitely does, but I don't think that that's the way every part of the business is defining success. You have, on the flip side of Eric, who's the sales guy, always pushing. We're going to catch back up here with Tace, who's kind of on the flip side and more concerned about money and pricing and what's left in the bank at the end of the month.
Price points are always hard, wanting to offer the cool, new, fun stuff, but doing it within a price point that is reasonable for them, but also where we can make some money. What else would we?
So just to dive a little deeper there on price point, is it just like basically meeting the customer need at a fair price, or is it more just what the price is at?
Or creating something to where we would want to try to, like there's a jacket out there, I can show it to you. It's really neat, but it's a holloway jacket and it's got quite a bit of embroidery on it. So like I think it's really neat, but people instantly see the price and like, whoops, not paying that for that. You know what I mean? So not even with them requesting it, it's just, hey, here's something new. Here's, shimmer seems to be a big thing, and I think for the most part people pay for that, but even so.
So Tace is right on here. It's extremely important to strike a balance between what you want to do versus what the customer is willing to pay for. Next, we follow up with Tace to understand if they have price grids or their approach to pricing.
Well, we have that program. Did they show that to you?
Not yet. They mentioned it, but they haven't showed it yet.
So that we really try to hold true to that for the screen printing. As far as heat transfer, I think that we kind of shoot from the hip, I think, to be honest with you, just because it seems like, you know, maybe it should be a $20 shirt, but you're pretty sure you're not going to get the sale if you say it's $20, so all of a sudden it's a $12 shirt, or you know what I mean?
So there's serious cause for concern on pricing here. What we're hearing is that 4 different people within the business are quoting pricing, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but there's no consistent method for coming up with those quotes.
Right, and we actually have to get to the bottom of what is driving the discounting. Is it the customer perception of the product, or is it more the salesperson, the team's perception when they're selling it?
I guess probably both. Maybe a little fear in us of losing the job. If you say, oh, it's $10 a shirt, then you think, oh, shoot, we're going to be way higher, and trying to be competitive.
Fear of losing the job actually seems to be driving the discounting.
So next, we need to find out if that fear is quantifiable. So we ask the question, are they tracking why they lose sales? Is it really price?
There's so much, I think, going on for everybody. Stuff like that, that's really important. Gets slid through.
So they don't track sales, wins, and losses, which is a definite area for improvement. And it seems like the reason why is because they're very involved in the day-to-day.
Yeah, capacity is definitely an issue, and we picked up on this in conversations throughout the day. It's an issue for the whole team, the whole business, really. And Tace is going to give us an example where they're tying up capacity for very little profit.
Even though we're still doing good, I think we're losing our tail in some spots. Design, I think. You know, you get somebody that calls and says, I want this, this, and this. And you give it to them, oh, but I want this. Oh, but I want that. And you've got 4 hours into a $20 hat now.
So that's just one example, and we'll work to solve that later. Next is the big question for Tace. Where does she see the business in the next 3 to 5 years?
We have some really high goals and dreams. I don't know. I hope that we can keep focused on we've realized that maybe we've got a little too much going on in different things, and we're losing our hands by, you know, just always rushing around trying to do this, trying to do that. So maybe become a little more focused to get a better grasp of. So when someone says, where are we this month? I can say, oh, we're up 75% from last month, or whatever. I wish that I could offer that, and at this point I can't.
So is it a bad thing to want more focus in sales measurements?
No, I think it's a good thing. So we have Eric, who wants to grow by trying new things. We have Tace, who wants to grow as well, but with less trial and error. And now we get to spend some time with Jared, who is Tace's husband and part owner of the business.
Yeah, and we start in a similar spot as we did with Eric and with Tace, understanding some of the growing pains that are happening at Moose's Enterprises, this time as it relates specifically to a customer's expectation of how quickly they should turn an order.
There was a month stretch, I bet, where we had to slow down.
Yeah.
Because, well, it was, at the time, it was just me, him, and Tace. There was a 2-month span, it was just the 3 of us. So everybody was just going nuts trying to do everything and running ragged, getting 0 sleep, and then it's like, we gotta slow down. We can't. We want to turn everything over for somebody within, I mean, we like to do it within days, but we know we can't, but we still try. We really do. So to take this step back and say, you know, John's not going to get mad at us because we're turning it over in 5 days. 5 days is good. Especially some embroidery that has to get digitized and looked at. And then we got to proof it to the customer, get the thumbs up. You know, that takes time to do. So we've learned to kind of relax a little bit, work, you know, 10-hour days, and, you know, call it quits.
Even though they've cut back a little from where they were, there still seems to be a high demand on everyone's time.
Yeah, there definitely is. But one good thing that came out of our talks with Jared is they've implemented a process to help customers say yes quicker.
No, for the most part, I mean, with people, you kind of keep it simple. I don't say we make them do what we want, but if you lead a customer in a direction, for the most part, they'll go with you. And if they want a blue, you just pick out a blue. You know, they're not going to say, you know, 99.9% of them aren't going to say, I wanted a sky baby blue. You know, they're going to look at the blues we have and say, let's go with that one.
If you show them all these blues, they'll probably be forever making a decision.
Right. You just,
Gave them all the choice.
and once you look at their logo, a lot of them, once the stickers are made or the signs are made and it comes down here, I'll do a sew out on whatever's going to look good as a background, show them it, everybody's happy. So quicker we can get a yes out of them, quicker we can turn it over for them.
That's definitely a takeaway for those watching. Simplify your presentation, simplify it again.
As we continue with Jared, there becomes more concern about wasted resources in the process, specifically their designer Dustin's time.
That's, I think our biggest question mark right now is the price we charge or don't charge for designing. And a lot of it is, we've talked to a lot of bigger companies than us, and everybody says get upfront money because you don't know how long you're going to spend on a project. And it's hard being a local small business like this. I don't think we ever have gotten upfront money, but we've kind of gotten hurt a couple times. Dustin will have, 7 hours into designing something, and then they want to think about it. So then it's a couple months before we hear about them. Then they've gotten somebody else that's done it, and we're like, kind of looks close to what we designed, but so that's hard.
We'll grapple with the money up front issue shortly, but knowing that this is an issue, they've implemented a process that helps to really minimize the risk of losing that design time that they've already completed.
Staying in contact with people are big. A big part of the industry because people forget. People are busy. They have kids. They have jobs. So once we send out an email, if we don't have a response from a day, we'll give them a call. Because with everybody, this is Nicole from Mount Pisgah. Tace has all of her contact info, so you send them out a proof, and she liked it. She got right back to us, and I'll write, it was approved 8/12 through an email. That way we can go back and reference it if for some reason she wasn't happy. But all your order forms will have a name and an email if we can get it from them. Most everybody gives it to us. So that way we shoot them a proof. If we don't hear back from them by the next day, we'll call them and say, hey, we sent you a proof, did you get it? And most of the time it's, oh man, I forgot, let me look at it. Then they get right back to us. And they appreciate it just because they do get busy, they get sidetracked. So they enjoy somebody checking up on them, following with them, saying, just so they know, because they give us a deadline and they forget about the deadline. So, the football team that needs their t-shirts by Friday, somebody's forgotten about it. And if we call them just to give them hey, we're still waiting on this, we got a week left. People are usually generous for it.
It sounds like a really simple process, but there's a big difference between Moose's Enterprises and a lot of other businesses, and it's their care and their speed with the follow-up process.
Totally agree. And next we get specific to Jared's role in the business and ask him what are some of his biggest challenges.
Keeping the machines running. That's the biggest. One of the main reasons is because I'm pulled off to do other things. So once I'm here and I'm working the machines, keeping them running, staying caught up. And it's better, like I said earlier, having 2 machines because now I can do twice the amount of work that I could before. But since we're getting more work in, now I have to stay on top of both of them just to stay up with it. But being pulled off to go do a wrap or go upstairs or go out and deal with a customer because somebody else is busy that can't talk to somebody walking in the door, as long as I can keep them moving. Because, I got kids too, so I can't tell you how many times we've stayed overnight, stayed till midnight, stayed till 10, just trying to, get ready for the next day. So the more they run, the more we do, the more I can be with my kids.
So once again, we hear about multitasking happening here in the business, and a primary challenge of Jared's is getting pulled away from the role that he should be performing in front of the embroidery machines.
Yeah, having said that, there is a clear definition of success in the department, and that's keeping the machines moving, which, if that's happening, it's a great goal because the machine sewing should equal more profit and should equal jobs turning quicker so he can get home.
Yeah, so we need to make sure that the profit portion is really being handled correctly here. So we're going to ask about pricing and how that's handled in the embroidery department.
It's a case-by-case basis. The majority is per thousand, like $1 per thousand is kind of average. But as far as the digitizing goes, I mean, that's where it lies. If we're spending hours and hours on digitizing it, it's going to be more than if somebody comes in here and just wants something simple, like it's a buddy's birthday and they want to say happy birthday old guy on a hat for him. Generally, I'm not going to charge them for a digitizing fee. And I won't right now, one, because it's practice for me, because I'm learning how to digitize.
Yeah.
But two, it's simple things. Once we get into logos, fades, stuff like that, then there's going to be a digitizing fee.
So although there are a few red flags kind of in the pricing model with design and digitizing that Jared pointed out to us, overall, he has a pretty good grasp on what needs to happen in the embroidery department price-wise to make it successful.
Yeah, and Tace mentioned earlier that they had a pricing tool, and so we need to dive deeper with Moose, who's another part owner in the business, to really understand how that tool works.
It's very cost effective. I've seen a lot of places, it's integrate with your QuickBooks, and didn't really feel that was necessary for our fit. So I forget, this was $350, $375.
One-time fee.
Yeah, one-time fee, and
Who's
you
this
get
from?
upgrades with it. Fast Accurate Bids.
Okay.
I just actually got an update this week when I got back. So.
And so most jobs run through this, at least at some point?
Yeah.
Like to price them?
Yeah. Not a whole lot. I don't do a whole lot of embroidery. Definitely all the screen print. Most of the vinyl does. Jared has his own custom mental pricing scheme. And then the other thing.
You like that? Jared's mental pricing?
I have some mental pricing.
You do have some mental
Yeah,
pricing.
yeah.
But the foundation is there. We know that they have a tool that they could consistently price jobs with, but they need the whole team to adopt it.
Yeah, and Moose's core focus isn't just on pricing, or maybe he would have been able to convince them to
Right.
use the pricing tool more often. He actually spends a great deal of time at the screen printing press running jobs through there. So we need to understand what some of his challenges are there and what jobs they choose to run through screen print.
What's the largest screen print job you've done on this machine as far as quantity?
750.
750.
Which typically our large orders are much over 100. It's pretty large for local people. It's not in the
Average order, a couple dozen? Or?
I would say we generally push a lot of 36 to 48 just because of price point.
Yeah. I guess I'll ask you the same question we asked Jared downstairs. What would you say your biggest challenge is with screen print?
Ooh, that's day dependent, really.
Teaching you training?
I got different issues every day, and sometimes a lot of times it's one I've had before. I just got to re-remember. Like that right there, you were talking to me. I realized he just went to the female cut, and I'm on the male trim. We can edit that.
Yeah.
So I'll take some of the credit for that ruined garment because I was distracting Moose as he was screen printing there. And also give you the recommendation that find a blank apparel supplier within a one-day ship point from your location, because that will make it a lot easier if something like that happens to you.
Yeah, we didn't do Moose any favors there by editing out that mistake that happened. And have you ever seen at the end of, it's typically like on a game show or a reality show, the statement that portions of this program not affecting the outcome have been edited?
Yeah, I've seen that before.
Yeah, well, we edited a lot out of our visit from Moose's Enterprises, but we do come back and deal with a lot of those things that we learned that weren't necessarily on camera the next day.
Yeah, some of those things were, we spent a fair amount of time in the showroom looking at the way things were displayed and laid out. We also talked a bit about markets that they're reaching, including the racing market, and then talked about some school spirit sales that they were even doing regionally, and talked about perhaps expanding beyond that.
So we took all of that information back and spent the evening over dinner and in the hotel room just figuring out exactly which direction we think Moose's should go to achieve their goals of doubling the business and becoming more profitable. And this next portion of the program that you're about to watch is that. It is the blueprint. You've done a really great job of managing the growth of the business and just evolving the business into what it is today, from maybe what the original vision was to kind of where your customers or the demand took you with what you want to do. So staying cash flow positive through all of that is a really impressive thing. As you guys know, I don't know if you study small business statistics, but 80% of small businesses fail in the first 12 to 18 months. And you guys have been here since, I think you said 2011 is when you formed the company and really started adding the printing equipment, kind of where we come in 2013, 2014, right, around that area. So doing that very well. What we came away with, the theme that we kept hearing throughout the day as we kind of made our way around your building, is that you do a lot. And managing that growth and doing a lot is a difficult thing to do. And if you really want to take the business to the next level, when we talk about scalability and how you can add, I know you hired your first couple employees outside of the family and friends that you have with Joe, who's on. And it sounds like to us that hiring is going to become more important as you continue to grow, because obviously I don't think all of you guys can handle double the workload to get double the business. So our real theme that we came away with was ways to simplify the business, basically to give you more time to where you don't necessarily have to double your staff or your resources to do double the business. Because at the end of the day, if you can do the same amount of business and double the profit, I think that's a win for us. That's kind of the direction that we are recommending that you take, is find ways to gain 50% more profit with only doing 10 to 25% more work. And that's kind of where our recommendations come down to. So simplify will be the theme across everything that we talk about here for the next 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, and so the first area that we found, sort of try to group these off so they're digestible, is simplify as far as the process. When we talked specifically the sales process, the sales cycle, when we talked to everybody, I think the first comment Eric made to us is we have a hard time saying no, right? And I think that's one of the big benefits is you say yes a lot, and so customers come to you a lot, because if they come in the door, odds are you're going to win the business. But then on the flip side of that, it seemed like there was a lot of perhaps wasted time, money, labor resources in design work that sometimes didn't pan out into an actual order. So there was a lot of potential for improvement there and basically freeing up capacity. So we had sort of some real tangible tips, and we'll email you a copy of all this so you can have all the notes, is to define sales stages. So really, from a sales stage standpoint, this really helped us in our business with sales management, which I've done a fair amount of, is defining sort of what are the stages that a buyer goes through when they approach the business, from interest ultimately to purchase, and being able to keep a handle sort of on the sales stages of a buyer. So we came up with some ideas, like we had step number one, the sales stage is interest. So this means the customer has walked in the door, they've picked up the phone, they've made a call. Really, this is the point where we want to document that we have this prospect or this customer that's interested in a reorder. we feel that, this is typical. Every business gets these. You want to get more of them through successful marketing. We don't think, there's any concern here other than just having some documentation of interest and working it into the sales pipeline. Really the step where I feel like there can be some improvement and perhaps even monetizing in the sales cycle is what we would call ideation. So this is garment selection, really beyond that design selection, and decorating process choice. So when you start to get into, I want this design, or here's my artwork, and there starts to be some real labor beyond just conversation, and basically it comes up here and it hits some form of production tasks of creating artwork. So we thought that ideation step could be perhaps an area where you can qualify customers better. So if they're interested in getting their design worked on, perhaps they can make some sort of deposit that can be applied to their first order. That way you're not doing a lot of work to ultimately have the fallout. So something can be small. Basically, it's just a way to get them committed that says, I believe in this idea. I'm spending your time. I'm willing to at least commit X amount, whether that's $25, whatever, that can be applied to my order once I'm happy with the design. Do you want to cover quotation next?
Yeah, sure. So after the ideation phase, there's obviously the quotation phase. So you have decided on the garment selection, you have designed the artwork, and you have the decorating process that you're going to use. So we get into quotation. So the steps that we saw here would be proofing and sampling, and we're going to get into some really specific solutions that Stahls has to offer here at the very end that we're going to talk with you about on ways to kind of improve this process. But proofing and sampling, we also talked a lot about pricing. So the strength of your business is that you're getting a lot of orders, I think, because you're willing to match pricing to get the order, at least out in the field. You've responded well to market feedback or customer feedback. You have an idea of what your costs are, but we think pricing can be simplified a lot more to where there's not a lot of back and forth. So basically, how many times do you go back and forth with a customer on a price? What are some ways that we can take that down to where here is what our stock pricing is, or if you can hand out a price list to where people have an idea up front to where every job isn't a custom job. Although the nature of the business is that it's custom, find what works the best for you that covers the most. You'll make more money on these orders and you'll make a little bit less money on these orders, but a nice average to at least give the customer a starting point that you can work from. Again, just simplifying the process. So if they have a price up front, you don't have to go back and forth in 3 emails on quoting a price or however long that takes you. Also, turnaround time. I know you guys strive for the quickest turnaround time that you can get. Sometimes you're turning stuff around same day, sometimes it's 2 to 3 days. The industry standard, probably close to 2 weeks. I think you guys know that in the online research that you've done. By the time shipping is accounted for and all that, you have an advantage being local. But in the quotation process, if you can simplify and publish what the turnaround time is and either offer rush fees to do it quicker, kind of like the custom ink model that we talked a little bit about yesterday, just to where it's an offer, you can always choose to waive it. But if you have it in writing up front, customers understand that if they're going to say, you know what, I really need that tomorrow, then you have the right to charge for that and add more profit to the bottom line. So kind of simplifying that whole quotation phase from proofing, which again we'll talk about a little bit more at the end in more detail. Pricing, just have a stock price list for the type of work that you guys want to do, and also turnaround time.
Okay, and then I think the last stage that we identified would be close. So this is basically either win or you lose the sale. It seems like you guys are winning most of the time, but I think it's important to also sort of manage your losses as well and understand, why we lost the business, why they went with another supplier or basically said no, and really document those reasons, because then you can really dive in at the end of X period, 3 months, 6 months, a year, and say, okay, here's how much business we won. We won 40% of the time or 60% of the time, but the 40% that we lost, what were the reasons why? And so I think managing that sort of sales pipeline to understand, and I bet you would find that it's not price the majority of the time. It's some other reasons, but coming up with common reasons. So when you close a sale out, whether it's won or lost, you know why you're winning, so you can do more of it, and why you're losing. So I guess all of those points bundle up. I mean, it's a lot, but it's, defining sales stages, and it's really, the basics of managing a sales pipeline So you can take your customers through a process that everybody understands where each customer's at in the process. And I think it'll simplify really the workload and how you guys do stuff. So a sales pipeline is a really good idea for any business because it helps you just get tracking and accountability and getting to the part where you can measure wins and losses. And obviously Moose's Enterprises was buying into that, but they did have a lot of follow-up questions after that segment.
They did. It was quite a bit of information. Lots of things to consider if you've never had a sales pipeline before. And for those folks who haven't been in sales, it can be a bit confusing. Now, I know they understand the necessity of having a process and the value of having a process, but the questions that they had were good ones from this point on.
Yeah, and let's turn over now to Jared's question that we wanted to point out to you specifically about charging for art.
You get a customer that walks in and says, hey, this is what I'm looking for. We can do a deposit with them right there and get started on them, but somebody that phones in or emails or contacts us via Facebook and they say, hey, look, this is what we want to go with. Do you just say, we're going to need like a $50 deposit before we put Dustin on designing it? Like before we start wasting our time, how can we get those people to commit to us?
So that's exactly what we were saying, in that charging for art is an important step, but Jared raises a fair concern on how do you do that online or over the phone?
Over the phone, I think it's a matter of communication. Right now, the way Moose's is set up, I think they want people to walk through the door. In a lot of the conversations that we had over the course of that day and a half is walk through or walk-in traffic is really what they were looking for. So how can they take a credit card over the phone? There's a lot of different services out there that would integrate with their accounting software, which they mentioned was QuickBooks, like the Square Reader. You can take credit cards over the phone. I'm sure there's plenty more.
Email an invoice.
Yeah, you can even email an invoice, tie into some other type of accounting software that would let people pay online as well.
Yeah, and then I think the other key thing for the viewers to understand is that the reason art is such a challenge here is because every concept hits an artist. And so it starts to consume time and resources. But for some businesses, the strategy may be that they want to utilize a templating solution to reduce the time on art in general.
Templating makes the sales process much easier, which is really where this question was birthed out of, the whole sales process. And using a company or a process like Transfer Express or using templates in the CADWorks Live vinyl cutting software would make the process go much easier.
Yeah, we know that art is one of the most challenging parts of the process. It's a concern for many of our customers and viewers, so we've worked hard on programs such as the EasyView Designer that makes creating art easier so you can try concepts without having to pass a cost over to the customer.
Yeah.
This is our thoughts from an outsider's perspective, and you guys are obviously very committed, passionate, have been with the business throughout the whole thing, so take it for what it's worth, but we think you need to simplify product offering and really define who you are, and not simplification to where, you know, we just need to do heat printing or screen printing, but it was clear to us that you had many different parts of the business. You know, you had the parts business, you had the safety supply business, you had the apparel side, and then you basically had the sign and vehicle graphic side. We obviously didn't look at the revenue for each, but our instinct was that the part side is more of a passion and not necessarily a future revenue generator, unless you guys see it differently. So we felt that sort of like if you prune a tree, right, and cut off the bad branches, the other parts are going to grow and blossom. We felt that if you could, separate yourself from some component of the business, it would be less of a perhaps distraction during the day, and everybody could focus on driving, the goal forward.
Okay. So in addition to that, even if you decide not to do that, one of the things that we also thought you can do when it comes to pruning and growing sales and getting money for things that you want to get money for is define what your target market or markets are. Right now, I know you have walk-in traffic, you have call-in traffic, people find you online. Your market is just local. Anybody local that wants to place an order is your market, which is fine for your incoming business. However, as we kind of learned in the artwork phase and also on some of the jobs that you guys told us about, you don't make as much money on job A as you do on job B. So defining those types of jobs that you want targeting those markets and actually going out and getting the business rather than relying on incoming business from whoever might find you, can make the business more profitable with the time that you guys have if you simplify your markets. So we just thought through a few markets for you last night based on what's already going through the business and the racing market we thought about. And when it comes to targeting a market, we have to define what the offer is. So when you start thinking about your pricing grids and ways to simplify that process, what is the offer to the racing market that brings them to you? It seemed like that market you guys had the biggest radius of where you sell into. So what is bringing those folks to you, and how do you target more of them and go out and get them with an offer that works for them? The second market that we thought about was sports and spirit. So we saw a lot of what we would call spirit stuff come through, but I believe in a couple conversations, you guys aren't necessarily getting the uniform business from a lot of your customers when it comes to like football uniforms, those types of things, the larger schools in the area. Is that something that can be profitable for you as you begin to study the business and simplify the process? And what is the offer to those folks? I think you guys do a great job with your with the sheets that you sent out, the paper, and the online stores that you're trying to vet out right now. That market, at least for a lot of our other customers that kind of resemble what you guys do, is extraordinarily profitable. You can charge higher prices for a lot of the stuff that you can put, especially into the spirit market. And then lastly, we just called it industrial. It's the business you're in, the gas and oil business, providing the stickers. It seems to be a very profitable business for you. So thinking about which markets or which types of customers you make the most money off of, and actually putting a focus on going out and getting more of those and starting to say no to some of the other customers that you just don't make money on the job.
Yeah, and then as you start to define the market, I think, it will transform everything, right? It'll transform the business card. It'll transform the sales conversations, the way the price grids are set up. It'll probably transform your showroom. You'll probably have a wall focused on sports and spirit, perhaps a wall focused on industrial, a wall focused on racing, because you said when they come in, you have them. So imagine if you could have a display tailored to that specific buyer type. And then of course you'll have your general business, but most of that can fall into sports or spirit or small business with those types of wearables that you'll be displaying. So we think there's a lot to be gained by sort of being intentional about what market you're going to grow in. And really we think, long term, as you improve your web and capabilities and web marketing capabilities, you'll be able to expand the net wider. So instead of just local business, we believe if you target the, industrial business or the racing business, you can really take that nationwide once you sort of find your niche and start to grow out in those verticals through your online stores or whatever else you may want to do. So what do you think about? We've heard it from quite a few of you yesterday as far as simplifying, or I think focus maybe was the word used more.
Did you tell him your fork seals are junk, Moose, so we need to get out of selling bike parts because your bike's no good? Is that?
Well, that's got
where
a
this
great
came
tie-in with graphics, though.
Right.
You have the graphic kits and you get the parts too.
Right.
I kept hearing you talk, but there's a real short phrase there that kept bleeping. It was, well, you gotta say, and then I didn't understand.
You didn't understand the no part?
Say that it goes again. Yeah. It's like it's censored.
Yeah. But anyways, consider it. It's just,
No, I mean, it's something I've thought about, because at times it is annoying. Like, you're not doing enough with it. And it is a passion of ours. We grew up racing dirt bikes, and it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's annoying at times. It's like, I got one phone call.
It's not
Yeah.
a money maker.
Based on what you just said and the way graphics play into it, I would recommend focusing more on targeting customers first before you start eliminating portions of the business, and maybe finding more of those customers that actually benefit from that complete package, if that's where you're making
It's
the money.
really, selling a graphics kit is irrelevant to selling bike parts.
Okay.
He doesn't want to let it go either.
I get it. If I were selling basketball hoops and basketballs and it was my business and my passion, I wouldn't want to let it go, but,
No, at the same time, it's
Distraction.
yeah. I mean, we can better use our time elsewhere. It was added prior to the last acquisition, and we got busy with screen printing and embroidering and everything else, and it's a hobby. And it really is what it is. It's fun. We enjoy it. So,
Yeah.
hey, if somebody walks in, fantastic, and it's another person through the door that got to see
I think
anything else
Jared's
that
been
we
your
don't know.
biggest customer.
Yeah.
And then you didn't make
Really
anything
tires.
off of it.
I think we were expecting a bit more, but there's a lot of, that's got some real tight online competition.
Right.
So it's definitely sizzled out a lot faster than we thought it would.
Yeah, and when I walked in the door, it's the first thing I saw. I mean, it's the
Well, it used to be hid around the corner, but we've had to try to.
Brought it out to try to draw attention. to
Right.
it.
yeah. So I'd say double down on your big winners. Don't try to keep all the balls in the air.
Right.
So I was a little bit nervous about that section leading into the day because more or less we're telling them that one of their kids is ugly. That's exactly what we were telling them. And it was a really ugly kid and they just kept wanting to put it in front. The pictures. What's wrong with that? I don't understand. But the concept is that sometimes we get so invested and blinded by something that we just love that it can consume us, distract from other more important things. And that was the case. And they realized it. And it was nice to be able to point that out and have it not fall on deaf ears. They knew they needed to make a change. And I think we helped push them in that direction. The next big issue that we needed to talk about with them was succession planning specifically. Yeah. Replacing yourself. I think, from scaling and growing the business, just to transition from simplify, it's people. And what is the growth strategy? Because you're going to need more hands. Basically, you got 2 more with Joe, but I think the start to that is begin creating measurements for what you do. So basically, in your role for embroidery, what defines success? At the end, and you mentioned yesterday, keeping the machine running. But what does that look like from a measurement if you're thinking that you're giving this to somebody else and judging their success? The same thing when you're heat pressing. What is successful heat press operator or weeding operator, what does that look like? And I think if you each sort of take your particular focus and define what is possible and create some measurements, it's going to make it a lot easier to replace yourself, because I think that's the goal, is that each of you are very good at what you do, but each of you are one of the core sort of founding members of the business and need to free up your capacity to continue to grow and replace yourself in some of the tasks.
That's a difficult part, because it's trying to find somebody that wants to work, like, period.
Yeah.
I mean, just
Not so much want to work, but cares.
Skills.
right.
That's
That's
a big one.
it's the skills thing.
Come to a wall and then they just
You need to
stare
have
at
something.
it.
Yeah.
Or go around it.
You guys definitely have the benefit of being a group of highly talented people who are good at solving problems. The vast majority of the labor pool doesn't live that way, which is why they don't start their own business and work together. So this is really where focusing on the processes that we talked about at the beginning helps. And I know you guys with your military background probably are better than anybody at defining what a process should look like. So like thinking about your embroidery, you said you could probably work with somebody for a day if they wanted to work and learn, and they'd be able to run the machine. So what is the measurement to define their success on a daily basis, rather than just looking at it at the end of the month and saying how many jobs did we put through here? If you're running, your 1,000 stitches per minute on your 2 machines, you're getting 2,000 stitches per minute. You said you charge about $1 per 1,000. So when those machines are running, it's worth $2 per minute. So 120 bucks an hour should be running through there, sales-wise, or that would be your max capacity, give or take. So what percentage of the time can you really expect that machine to run? How many thread breaks do you have? Like, is 80% runtime a good day for somebody? And then you can go back and measure the stitches with your software and all that type of stuff to measure their success and just make it as foolproof as possible when building your processes. Because you're probably not going to find many more people like yourselves that are willing to accept whatever you can afford to pay to run that type of equipment. I mean, an embroidery machine operator, a heat press operator, screen printers a little bit more. Obviously, you guys know that probably took a little bit longer to learn. It's more art than science. It's not just pulling down a handle on a heat press, which is another thing that we'll talk about when it comes to capacity. Think about running more of your jobs through your heat press department, because It's easier to train. You can train somebody to place something on a heat press and probably be running in half an hour to an hour versus a day on embroidery, or versus maybe a couple weeks in your screen print department. And it's a lot easier to scale that type of basic labor, and you can pay a little bit less. This is obviously a challenging problem for the group. They're struggling with it because I think they're trying to solve all of their problems with a single hire. And the idea here is that they can't expect to get another Swiss Army knife when what they really need to look for is just the corkscrew. Right, and the corkscrew is going to open a pretty darn expensive bottle of wine, I think, especially if they put it in the heat press department as we're recommending. There's a lot of profit to be made from placing the right person in the right place. And it frees up a lot of their capacity, but you'll still continue to hear in this next section the team struggling with which way they should go.
Really, we're at a point where we can continue to grow through streamlining stuff. Will make us more efficient, but we're at a breaking point of we do need to add people in various aspects of the business.
But in order to do that, we're also learning that we're not covering costs to be able to afford another person.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to have Eric out selling every day and not here, but we need him here to take care of everything. You know, because if he's not here, then this is going to keep piling up till Joe gets here, as long as I'm so busy embroidering. So, and we'd love to have somebody else to help Taste in that department, but I mean, that's a whole nother trust issue that you're trusting people with your money and with the paperwork for the business. So a bad person there can, you know, put us right under it fast.
So I do think, you know, defining the market, simplifying what you sell, and then being able to dial that in so you make money on more money on the work you do, because we know the challenges with hiring and scaling. I think hopefully we can overcome that, and you guys can find somebody that can plug in. But even outside of that, if you said these are the 5 and plus Joe, and we're not able at this point to hire, how do we reduce the actual number of pieces or the work that comes through, or make more profit on every piece? And I think you can do that through sort of targeting more in the sales process. What am I presenting? What are we selling? You know, that way you're not tying up capacity with the $2 profit per piece job or whatever it might be. So getting a better grasp on.
I think our local market makes that really difficult in our want to price compare to, you know, the small basement job. They might do less quality, have less overhead, but if they're $5 cheaper, then they're walking out the door. And so they don't have artwork fees, they don't have setup fees, or it's really hard to compete with that.
Remember that word you couldn't hear earlier?
Yeah.
You gotta be comfortable. Seriously, you're gonna have to turn away work to get the type of work that you want. When somebody's shopping like that or driving you down on price, when you're having, I mean, you gotta hold to your guns on pricing to a point, and then do another piece we forgot to share on price is having that, here's our back pocket special, here's where we're willing to go, and that's it. Otherwise, we end up tying ourselves up, which time is at a premium for everybody. We tie ourselves up with work that is not as profitable as work that we probably could have if we took control of our day and the type of jobs. So I think having the...
So it doesn't seem like the whole team at Moose's is ready to jump on board with the plan that we've laid out here over the past 15 or 20 minutes. There's a lot of decision makers on the team, and this is a lot of information being presented all at once to them, in fairness. And so I think the point we're trying to make here is that they're at a point of maturity in the business, really a tipping point on who do they want to be. Do they really want to double growth as they laid out for us? And if they do want to double growth, that's why major change is required, because we would consider them what we would call a mom and pop shop. They do a little bit of everything, they service the local community, and they do a great job of it. Yeah, they definitely do, and if they want to expand that reach, they're going to have to expand that reach in order to double the business. I just don't think the business is there locally, and through additional conversation, they came to that realization as well, that they need to expand beyond the local community. And hopefully this personalized success plan, the blueprint, will help them get to that next level. So we're ready to walk out the door, wrap up the visit. I don't think we have complete and total buy-in yet, but maybe they'll come on board here over the next couple months.
All right,
decorated
guys.
garments.
Hey,
It's been a
appreciate
pleasure.
it. Thanks.
Enjoy it.
Thanks a
Great
lot.
getting to know you.
Thank you.
Look forward to
Thank
catching
you.
up with you.
Thanks for
Thanks for
coming.
all the advice.
Appreciate the time,
Guys.
guys.
You're gonna email us the list of the do's and don'ts?
Yeah, we got all kinds of emails coming
Yeah,
too.
it'll probably take us early next week. We'll send a complete follow-up package and we'll process that order out tomorrow.
So we're on our way home from Moose's Enterprises. Had about a 5-hour drive to kind of just digest everything that happened over the past 2 days with this very first Stahls TV Blue Print episode. And what we have figured out on our drive is that our work has really just begun in helping Moose's along the way to doubling their sales over the next couple of years.
Yeah, so one thing we'll do now when we go back is create a personalized success plan, which we call the blueprint, particularly for Moose's Enterprises, so they can take some of the recommendations, implement them, and we'll put some additional thought into the process. So if you've been following along in this series, we thank you for that. And if you'd like to be featured on a future Blueprint episode, email us at tv@stahls.com for consideration. Thanks for watching the Blueprint.
So that was a really fun trip, and it was a long time coming. We had been planning this type of production for Stahls TV over the past couple years, and it was great to be able to finally get to do it. Yeah, I think visiting customers' shops is really where it comes to life for me, because you learn so much. Even in our job here as educators for Stahls TV, you pick up so much that we can share out with the viewers. And it was our first time. It certainly took a little bit longer than we would have liked, going through footage and trying to boil it all down into 2 episodes that were hopefully entertaining for the viewer and made sense. And so feedback is something that we value greatly here. So if you have something that you particularly liked about the Blueprint series, something that you would like to see added into the next one, please leave a comment on YouTube and be sure to click the thumbs up liking the video. That will help us to know that you want to see more content like this. And hopefully we'll be seeing you soon in another customer shop. Yeah, thanks for watching Stahls TV.